In the early hours of April 23, 1994, a jogger in Tokyo's peaceful Inokashira Park made a horrifying discovery that would send shockwaves through Japan for decades. What he found was not just a body, it was a message. Inside a garbage bag near a public restroom were human body parts, meticulously cut, washed, and packed. The remains belonged to a man, but there was no blood, no sign of struggle, no obvious suspect, and even after nearly 30 years, the case remains unsolved. This is the story of the Inokashira Park Dismemberment, one of Japan's most disturbing and mysterious murder cases, a crime so calculated and cold that even hardened detectives could not believe what they were seeing. The scene was straight out of a horror movie, but this was no fiction. The park, located in the Kichijoji neighborhood of Tokyo, was a popular spot for families, couples, and joggers. It was known for its beautiful pond cherry blossoms and calm surroundings. But on that morning, peace was shattered. Inside 27 tightly sealed plastic bags were more than 30 separate pieces of a human body, arms, legs, and a torso, all carefully severed. The only thing missing was the head. It had been removed and was never recovered. Police were stunned. The cuts were clean, so precise that they appeared to have been made by someone with surgical skill. Every organ had been drained of blood. Every piece was washed thoroughly before being packaged. There were no fingerprints on the bags, no hair, and no fibers. Nothing. It was as if the killer wanted the body to be discovered, but only after erasing every trace of their own existence. The victim was later identified as a 35-year-old man named Shigeru Matsu, a Tokyo resident who worked at a local electronics company. He had been reported missing 2 days earlier by his mother, who said he had gone out and never returned. Matsu was described as quiet, polite, and solitary. He had no known enemies, no connection to criminal activity, and no history of mental illness. His death made no sense to anyone who knew him, but the details of how he died, those were the most terrifying of all. The autopsy revealed that Matsu had likely been drugged before his death. There were no signs of restraint, no evidence of struggle, and no defensive wounds. Experts believe he was unconscious, or at least sedated, before he was killed, and the way his body was dismembered, that was something straight out of a medical textbook. The cuts were made along muscle seams, not random chops. They were methodical, with each limb separated at joints and tendons, almost surgically. The person who did this had knowledge, deep technical knowledge, of human anatomy. Police initially believed the killer could be a doctor, a butcher, or someone with experience in autopsies. But the bigger question was why? Who would kill a man like this? And more importantly, who would go to such extreme lengths to dispose of the body while making sure it would still be found? This was not a case of hiding the evidence. The killer wanted the body parts discovered. They were left in a place that was guaranteed to draw attention, especially in broad daylight on a weekend. But why go through the trouble of cleaning the body, removing the head, and erasing every trace of identity? Theories began to swirl, some logical, some chilling, and others so dark they sounded like urban legends. One theory suggested it was a ritual killing, that the body had been dismembered for some kind of cult ceremony. Others believed it was a message from an underground organization, possibly linked to the Yakuza. But there were problems with that theory. The Yakuza rarely leave bodies behind. They prefer quiet disappearances, not public displays. Another theory was that Matsu had stumbled onto something he should not have. Perhaps he saw something, knew something, or had something someone wanted. This might explain why he was eliminated so cleanly and silently. But again, there was no proof. No signs of blackmail, no unusual financial activity, and no strange contacts in his phone records. Some investigators suggested the killer was experimenting, that this murder was not about revenge or gain, but control. The precision, the cleanliness, the deliberate arrangement of the body bags, it all pointed to someone who wanted power over life and death. A killer who enjoyed the process. Think about it, most killers act out of impulse, rage, jealousy, or fear, but this murder required planning, patience, and cold detachment. You do not dismember a body into over 30 parts, wash each piece, and pack them individually unless you're methodical and, quite possibly, psychopathic. Despite the media frenzy and extensive investigation, no suspect was ever identified. Police interviewed Matsu's coworkers, friends, and family. They followed every possible lead, but there were no witnesses, no cameras, and no physical evidence. The crime scene, Inokashira Park, yielded nothing useful. Not even a boot print. You might now be asking, could this have been the work of someone who had killed before? That theory haunted investigators for years. Some believed this was not the killer's first crime, just the first that was found. Others feared it might not be the last. But to this day, no similar crime has ever been linked to the Inokashira case. It stands alone, a singular act of horror that seems to defy explanation. What made the case even more chilling is the timing. Just 1 year later, Japan experienced another gruesome crime, the Sakamoto family murder, involving the Aum Shinrikyo cult, who were responsible for the Tokyo subway sarin gas attack. That case too involved calculated murder, body disposal, and surgical skill. But investigators ruled out any connection. The Inokashira Park case was unique. The missing head remains one of the most disturbing details. Why remove it? Experts have different theories. Some believe it was to prevent identification, but dental records could have still worked. Others say the head was taken as a trophy, a way for the killer to keep control over the victim even after death. Or perhaps the head held evidence, bruises, bullet wounds, or needle marks that would reveal how Matsuo died. Whatever the reason, its absence only deepens the mystery. In Japanese culture, crime is often viewed through a lens of shame and honor. Publicly displaying a dismembered body in a serene, while Love Park violated every norm. It was not just a murder, it was a symbolic act, a way of shaking the public's sense of safety, and it worked. For months, people avoided the park, parents kept their children home, the air was thick with fear. If such a brutal murder could happen in a place as peaceful as Inokashira Park, then no place was truly safe. You might wonder, did the police ever come close to solving it? The answer is no. Not even close. Despite using psychological profiling, media outreach, and forensic analysis, the trail went cold almost immediately. No similar crimes, no DNA, no fingerprints, nothing. To this day, the case remains open with a permanent file in the Tokyo Metropolitan Police Archives marked unsolved. There is a word used in Japan for cases like this, muji, which means a crime without a solution. And this case is one of the most haunting examples, because it is not just about the brutality of the murder. It is about how a killer can walk among us, unseen, unnoticed, and unpunished. There are no happy endings in this story. Matsuo's family never received justice. The public never got closure. And somewhere, the person who did this might still be alive, living an ordinary life behind a mask of normalcy. This case remains a chilling reminder of how fragile life can be, how deep evil can hide, and how even in the most advanced societies, some mysteries remain locked in shadows. But maybe that is why people still talk about the Inokashira Park case, because it is not just a crime, it is a warning, a whisper that sometimes evil does not come with a face. Sometimes it comes with precision, with silence, with a plastic bag in a park at sunrise. If you are still with me, thank you. This case is disturbing, yes, but it is also important. We must remember these victims and these unsolved crimes and keep telling their stories. If you want to hear more cases like this, real, raw, and deeply unsettling, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell icon, and stay tuned. Next time, we dive into a case where an entire family vanished, without a trace, and the only clue left behind was a single locked room. Until then, stay alert, stay informed, and never forget, even the calmest places can hold the darkest secrets.